steadily it rises. Public preference for Lincoln Continental as the symbol for today's luxury motoring.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict. Thanks for coming back to the channel. If you're new, please consider subscribing. Check out Lincoln Addict Podcast, however you find podcasts. So every once in a while, I'll link up with someone and I will post their car for them through my Instagram, which is at Lincoln Addict, but I also have the sister page at Lincoln Continental Sales. And typically I'll leave the sales stuff over on the at Lincoln Continental Sales, but I'll cross promote it with Lincoln Addict, and that's what I want to do here. The reason why I'm doing this is I do believe this to be a solid car, and I would say, hey, let's look at this one. I'll give you guys the intel and the contact information. I think it's a solid price. And if it's something that you or someone you know could benefit from buying this car, please go ahead and contact the seller. So again, I'll give you the price. $55,000 is the asking price for this car, which I think is a fair price or best offer. Now, I will preface this and say, please, if you can, if you're interested in this car, either go and look at it, have someone look at it. I will, if you email me at Lincoln Addict Podcast, I'll send you a Google Drive link with all of these photos. There are a couple of videos. I think I'm just going to show one video, but this car is asking price $55,000 or best offer, which I think is a fair asking price. I don't know how much negotiation the seller will be willing to go down, but let's take a look. You can see here, you've got kind of the money shot side, driver side with the two doors open. The hood is popped and the deck lid is open slightly. We can see here it has the star on the side. That's one of the easier ways to tell a 66 from a 67 on the side view. From here, we can also see that the interior was redone. Now, there are several things that have been done over the course of the 11-year ownership on this car, including the seller does state that the engine and transmission were rebuilt. Typically, they don't have to be rebuilt, especially the engine, but oftentimes someone may say, hey, if we're going to pull the engine out, let's have it rebuilt. That's not a bad thing. My 64 Lincoln had good compression. We still rebuilt the engine, sealed it, and all of that, and it made it really nice. So again, it's not atypical, I guess, to see an engine rebuilt. Now, what we see here is the few photos that I have, I want to kind of showcase in 66. I like the 66 over the 67 in terms of the seats because you still kind of have what I refer to as the low back seats. Back on June 7th of this year when I was posting about 6-7 Lincolns, which is kind of what we do in social media, we tie in the day of like June. So June 7th, we were posting facts. I was about 67 Lincolns. And in 67, some new safety type regulations continue to kind of filter in. So basically the seats are a little bit higher, a little bit different look. Not a lot different, but a little bit different look in 67. So to me, I really like the 66 over the 67 in some ways. We can see here the top. I do believe he said the top was redone, but you can see this is typical when tops are redone. You'll sometimes have a little bit of this wrinkling here. This can either be, if you wanted to tighten this up. What if it was me and I bought this car, I would just rock it the way it is, as long as the top works, because typically your top is going to be down. Okay, so a few of the photos that were sent again in 66, the 462 was used. So you have the MEL, which is the Mercury Edsel Lincoln 462, a little bit different than the 430 that they used from 58 to 65. Now, these engines are rock solid. You can ask John Cashman or many other folks, but bottom line is these engines will run forever. Lincoln did continue with the single reservoir in 66. So you do see that here. As I've always said, kind of a safety thing. You could take it to a local mechanic shop and you could have the brake work done, and they would just put like a dual master cylinder. That would just ensure that if, for whatever reason, if this master cylinder went out, it's a single reservoir, so you would lose your brakes. If you've got a dual reservoir, you basically would have, the backup if the front went out or vice versa. We could see it is an air-conditioned car. The one thing on this car that he was very clear with me, he said the AC does not work, and that's not a deal breaker in my opinion, because typically the air conditions don't work in these cars. Now, what I mean by that is the owners don't typically spend the money in the beginning. They wait till kind of the end to get the AC working. It could be something where you have someone just charge it and it would work. That's what I would try. Or it could be a few other things that have to be done, but certainly any kind of mechanic shop for the most part should be able to get the air condition running. Now, these were a couple of the photos he sent me from inside the doors. I broke down this number here. 6 is, so it's a little hard to see, but 6 is for 66. Y is the Wixom, Michigan plant. 86 is the convertible body. G is the 462 engine. And the production, although it always starts with this 4, it's followed by these 5 digits. The 25115 represents the production number. That is including the sedans, the coupes, and the convertibles all kind of lumped together. That's the production number right there. So there's some of the information. What you'll see here again, you can see the dash and kind of a rear interior shot here. The interior looks really good. It's hard to tell. I don't think there is a tear right here on the dash where I usually typically talk about. But I've said this before, in 66, the dash is a little different, and I actually prefer this over 67. You can see the dash right here. There's this little bit of spacing in between, and I do think that that helps to aid with the 66 dash here, this pad, from tearing. It's more prone to tear in 67, but if you've ever ridden in a 66 or you've seen one, or let's say in the future you take a look at one, if you look in here, you'll kind of see this gap. And it's just manufactured that way. And it's kind of cool, a little bit different. 67 does not have that. It does look like it has speed control right here, which I had not noticed prior. And I do think some of you guys could chime in. I do think this is a tilt column. You got to remember, too, the tilt column was a little different. And I've gotten this mixed up in the past. Some of you guys have corrected me. The first year was 64. So 64, 65 had the same tilt column for the most part, and it's vacuum operated. Here in 66 and then in 67, you have more of a GM style column. I think one year it is a GM column. It might be 66, and then in 67, it looks very similar, but it was a different column. So I think there's something in there, and I kind of sometimes get that confused. But you can see, again, it does have a couple of features there. Of course, the door mats, or the floor mats, rather, these are, kind of aftermarket, which is typical. You're not going to see the originals very often. And there were speakers available in the kick panels in these years, something that I learned a little bit later on. I don't know how rare that was, but it's hard to tell. This does look like an aftermarket speaker, but certainly you could kind of put it back if you wanted to. The seller also states that a lot of the pump and some of the lines have been changed, and the top works flawlessly, as do the windows, according to the seller. You can see here, this is typically how they all look. So the top is down, and what you're seeing here in 66 and 67, kind of a very unique feature, is you have this, you have glass in the back. And it is different because in the other year cars, it is this isn't the design. You basically have a vinyl plastic, if you will, back window. But all of this, how it looks in here, is typical. There was the bar automatically installed right here. You can kind of barely see it based upon the coloration on it. But in 66, as John Cashman has said, the engineering defect, as he put it, was resolved by Ford/Lincoln installing this bar that's welded in, and that kind of keeps all of these casting parts solid so that they don't break. Again, 64, 65, you have to install a bar here. I have a video on my channel on how to do that. You will sometimes see a little bit of rust in here. This is typical. This is what we refer to as the package tray, so to speak, because it kind of sits right up here. And you will typically see a little bit of, kind of rust or a little bit of surface rust or discoloration here sometimes. This one is very nice. These pieces I've seen in very bad condition, and you'll spend a hefty amount to find one of these in nice condition. In addition to, you can imagine having someone swap this out. It's a lot of work. You can see all of the stuff you have to take off. So it's nice that there's a solid piece here. In 66, some of this also moved up here, so you can kind of see where the pump is and some of the relays and whatnot. That's all factory. What you see here is a driver and passenger peek into the trunk area. My eye is going to go up here to basically the deck lid to kind of see how nice is this. And if you look at this deck lid, this is actually a really nice one. These deck lids themselves can go for a few $1,000s depending on the year. And keep in mind, they're not interchangeable between the sedan and convertible. So to have a convertible with a really nice deck lid like that is a huge win-win. This carpeting in here is factory, so that's the way they look. You'll see the other pump over here, and then you'll see, of course, in 66, all of the stuff is not here because it's moved up in this area. You can see a little bit better view here of the bar that's installed. The thing's a hefty bar, and you don't have to worry about it. Here's a closer look here at some of the lines. They were, I would assume that the clear lines maybe weren't changed. It's hard to tell. They were clear from the factory, but they certainly could have been changed at some point. My understanding is the seller has had this car for 11 years. Up underneath the car, you can see, I don't have a lot of photos. Again, you could always ask him for more. This looks pretty nice all underneath. This looks, pretty dry for the most part. Your normal little bit of surface rust and whatnot. It does look like newer springs. Some of the bushings look like they've been changed. So a little bit of work has been put into it, but it looks nicer than what I've seen for the most part. You can see here, I think, a couple of other photos. I may have shared this one earlier, and you have this rear kind of shot showing the dual exhaust coming out. Don't really see any dings here in the bumper. So we've talked about how these cars can kind of sometimes jump into reverse, but for the most part, everything looks pretty nice in terms of the spacing. Now, I do want to flip over here really quick and watch this video. It's only 55 seconds. Now, you'll see right here, there is a missing Lincoln right here. You can find these, you can buy these. We can also see that right here you have the option to put the key in to put the top up or down. So again, this was not factory. Well, it was factory, but it was not auto installed. This was an option. Most of them have it, but not all. Now, the seller is aware that typically you would not want to leave the car running like this. You can see the paint is not perfect here, so I do want to just call out again some minor imperfections. It's hard to tell if the gapping there on the bumper is perfect, but it looks okay for the most part. The dog legs look good from here, at least from what we can see. And again, this walk-around video was provided by the seller. It's got the hubcap still on there. We're going to see, typically, I've had a 67 myself. This is, of course, a 66, very similar. A couple things that I see is, typically you're going to have normal dents and dings in the bumpers, but also these letters up here can get kind of expensive. It does look like the A might be missing. It maybe the L. There is typically like a little bit of a residue behind it where they were kind of stuck on from the factory. So it looks like most of them are there. The L does look like it's there, but typically you could spend, I don't know, anywhere from $10 to probably $50 a letter because, as you can imagine, they're getting a little tough to find. So again, just a few things I'm calling out. You can see the star there again for 66, and it's got the right windshield wipers there. Of course, this is where the antenna is at on these years. He's showing you inside the interior, black interior. Showing you the dash. It does look like there's a little tear in the speaker grill, but that is typical. You can see the auto drop worked there. and it did not. Let's see if it goes back up. Yeah, it does go back up. Sometimes you do have to kind of shut the door like that for it to go back up. He did state that all of the other windows, event windows, do work, which is a good thing. So with that being said, what I want to do is pop back over. If you want to buy this car, contact Maurice. His phone number is here. Also, if you're on Instagram, he is MoCity_Reese. Now, I know the key question you're thinking is, where is this car located? It is located in Houston, Texas. So what I would tell you is, to me, the convertibles continue to go up in price. You guys have seen me talk about that. This is, to me, a desirable car in terms of it's a convertible. I kind of prefer the 66 over the 67 convertible because of the few reasons I mentioned. It has a solid deck lid. It does look clean for the most part underneath. Is the car perfect? Absolutely not. But even at a $55K asking price, I think that's more than fair. So hit up Maurice. If you want these photos, I'll send you a Google Drive link, but you have to email me. LincolnAddictPodcast@gmail.com, and I will certainly provide you a link if you want to zoom in and get a closer look. But I'm not in it other than just trying to share this information for him. I'll post this in social media as well, and I just feel like oftentimes you guys are asking for a car that maybe is a little bit more on the affordable side. Some of you guys are really wanting to get into a convertible. Maybe this is the one for you. If it is, great. If not, let's keep on keeping on. Everyone, appreciate the support. Lincoln Addict, a.k.a. ODB, we out of here. Peace.